Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex, and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today's Mark Silvestri Day, but it is the last Mark Silvestri Day, unfortunately, because I am up to the end of my run of Mark Silvestri comics. So we started back in the 90s with the Wolverine run he did. Cyberforce kind of stopped with the ongoing series because I lost interest in the art, and even today I'm not that interested. And there weren't that many memorable kind of Mark Silvestri runs to pick from. There's maybe The Darkness, but again, he only did a few issues there and passed it off to other artists. No substantial kind of run. So to finish off basically his run on Big Baby Reviews, I will, at some point, I'm sure in the future, review more Mark Silvestri stuff that I find interesting. But just to cap off his review, next week we'll be starting with a new artist on Monday. We're finishing up with this issue here, which is Batman and the Joker, the Deadly Duo. Some very much more modern Mark Silvestri. This came out a few years ago. Can't pinpoint exactly, but it's pretty modern. And I bought it because I thought the art looked pretty awesome. It looked like he was going back a little bit more to his more kind of sketchy, illustrative, more dynamic style, less kind of posy, and the characters being slightly more animated, the body language, all that. And I think you have a good example of that here on the cover, right, with the slightly dirtier and sketchier hatching he's doing here. But that is also kind of very, I think, illustrative. Kind of in the Bernie Wrightson mold a little bit. So it's almost like Mark Silvestri being a little more illustrative, but not kind of as stiff as he was when he was kind of trying to be a little bit more like Jim Lee there in the mid-90s. So it harkens back to maybe some older school Mark Silvestri that you would see on Wolverine and on his Uncanny X-Men run. So that's enough about that. The cover looks great, I think. Obviously, the Joker's going to be involved, and Harley Quinn here. I got to say, I do think it looks a lot like Margot Robbie. I don't think it's lost on Mark Silvestri. Probably took some inspiration there in that depiction. At least that's my guess. So let's have a look inside. Thing is, I will say right away, I only bought this first issue. The story did not interest me enough for me to continue on. It was just kind of, I overall with Batman at this point, this has happened with Mark Silvestri on this series and Raphael Grampa, that new Batman series he put out. I bought the first two issues, and I really just, the art is amazing, as is this issue here with Mark Silvestri. I just lose interest because of the story. I guess I'm getting too old and I've seen too many Batman stories, call me old man or whatever, but I just see the same tropes over and over. There's been a murder, Batman shows up, the cops, all this stuff, and it's just, I'm really, really kind of fed up with it. I can still kind of take it in movie form, but in comic book form, I get really bored really easily. At this point, I think I'm more interested in like weird bootleg versions of Batman where Batman does weird psychotic shit. There's a few out there, and I do find those more interesting, to be honest. But art-wise, this is a great issue, so that's mostly what we're going to focus on here. Story and art, Mark Silvestri. Colors, Arif Prianto. Sorry for the accent, just for fun there. Letters, Troy Pateri. Special thanks to Matt Hawkins, and special thanks to Bridget Silvestri. So pretty bare bones kind of credit page here, and I kind of like that. It doesn't involve DC almost in any way. They, are there editors? Are they important? I kind of like that, to be honest. Maybe would have put a little more work into just the presentation of it, but that's fine. It's simple, direct, and to the point. So here we come upon Harley Quinn sitting kind of in a hole here in the sewers or something with a bunch of rats. So as you'll see, Silvestri very much using a very, again, illustrative style. Lots and lots of lines and hatching. Again, that's kind of the aspect that reminds me a little bit of excuse me, I said it before, Bernie Wrightson. I was going to say Barry Windsor Smith. And then there's other instances where like it gets almost manga. I don't know how else to describe it, but like here's a good example too of what I'm talking about. But the body language and the Silvestri illustrative technique, right? And the fact that he's he knows how to draw this building here, right? Gothic, kind of almost like it would topple over a little bit, kind of top heavy, very Gotham City, right? Looks pretty cool. But again, the same old scenario of a murder up here, and Bullock is there, and Batman shows up to help out the police, right? It's basically the beginning of that last Batman movie with Pattinson, right? That's how it starts, or well, near the beginning, anyways. They discover a murder guy, and Batman shows up. It's that trope, and once I bought this first issue, and the art couldn't just keep my interest for issue 2, 3, and etc. So I just kind of stopped here. But again, some masterful art here, and slightly experimental, I think, for Mark Silvestri. You know, I can't remember another comic where he's drawing this way. Even in the up close here, and kind of like, I think he's come back with some white and added some white on top of black here. You know, it's kind of rough in an interesting way, right? Even here with the Batman silhouette, he doesn't fill it up completely. You can see a little highlights, you know, what would be white in the original art, which is cool, which we'll get to see at the end of this issue. So there you go. And of course, Batman does the old Batman exit where Bullock turns around and he's gone already. Pretty major clue as to who committed these crimes, right? Not going to say that out loud. It's pretty obvious. So Batman and the Joker, the deadly duo, kind of the title page here in the middle of the comic, which is a little odd, I guess, but okay. Now, here's another one of my pet peeves when it comes to Batman. Way too much use nowadays of this whole idea that, you know, Batman can't necessarily fly, but he can like float and soar using the cape and wings and all that. You're kind of pushing it, you know. Maybe to save himself from a fall or something. Like, and I know it's Batman. It's a rich guy in a costume and technology and cars and stuff. It's already pretty unbelievable. But yeah, just when he starts flying and floating and soaring like a bat, like an actual bat, it gets to be a little bit much. Most times where I've seen it where it made sense, you know, in The Dark Knight Returns, maybe Frank Miller's kind of the first one to really introduce that. I might be wrong on that. But, you know, in The Dark Knight Returns and in year one, he's actually using an actual kind of, you know, parasailing, whatever you want to call that. I don't know what that's called, but it's some sort of device that allows you to float on air, right? So if anyone's familiar with year one, he uses it here, or uses it there rather. But here he's using just like it makes no sense. The cape, just like, did his wings beat one beat and, you know, him float away in this alley? It's just, I don't know. It's a weird choice. The art is amazing though. This whole shot of him here. And again, like the slightly dirty kind of, I almost say it's like Bernie Wright, a sloppier Bernie Wrightson. You know, Bernie Wrightson with just a little bit of Bill Sienkiewicz mixed in, just a little bit to make it kind of sketchy and edgy. The Batmobile's ridiculous. It's a Lamborghini, basically, right? That kind of base model car, and is ridiculously low to the ground, right? And if this were in any way realistic, and Gotham was like most metropolises across the world, you know, New York, I don't know about LA, but I can tell you for sure here in Montreal, the roads are horrible. If Batman actually had a car like this, he would have to stop on the side of the road about every 3 blocks for, you know, flat tire, dented rim, something like that. Batman would definitely have more of a 4x4 type vehicle, I think, for just city driving. If Gotham City is anything like New York or the roads in any kind of, again, metropolis. So what we're going to get throughout the series, or this issue rather, is this kind of Joker zombie, right, is appearing. So he says this isn't Joker, but whoever he is, he handled a 4-story fall like he was stepping off a curb. So we're going to start seeing more of these Joker zombies, which look really cool. Here and there, I feel like Silvestri's taking a bit of inspiration from Batman 1989 in the way like the light hits the ridge and the brow of the bat cowl, of the bat mask. I just find like in some of the shots here, it reminds me of Michael Keaton's original cowl more than anything. There's a few shots like that, so I'll try to point them out. There's maybe, I do get a slight Neil Adams vibe with shots like this, right? Or maybe a bit of Kevin Nolan in the depiction of the ears and the points and stuff. Kevin Nolan has a slightly more angular kind of art style, I guess. So, you know, Batman's realizing obviously that physically this Joker's a little different than what he's used to. And this, you know, he says the head means something to him. So he's you know, carrying on and dragging this head behind him, this severed head. So he gets marked, basically, and Batman's going to follow him with these little drones or something. Oh, they shock him. Very nice little integration of, you know, modern drone technology. If you live in New Jersey, I guess you know all about drones these days, huh? What's going on there? Let me know in the comments if you know anything. Inside information on these weird drones the size of cars appearing on the eastern seaboard. I mean, at this point, you know, if anyone out there who's listening is interested in that or has been following the story, I definitely think it's probably the government, the U.S. military. You know, whatever they're working on is probably top secret, and they just can't say anything about it, so they don't. They can't, you know, acquiesce to the fact that they're doing it. But when asked questions, they said there's no threat to national security. So they're kind of, you know, read between the lines. They're kind of saying we can't come out and just say it, but it's us, right? And it's not any kind of foreign power that could endanger us. Anyways, that's what up to this point, I'd say that's my take on it. Funny thing about the Silvestri design, I gotta say, is, you know, all of a sudden the top of the boots kind of disappeared. Like, I don't know if they seem to be cut pretty high here near the knee on the cover. Batman, to me, with no undies, just looks kind of weird. Just looks like he's in his pajamas. There's just something about it I don't like. You know, I think the main reason those underoos look good on Superman and Batman specifically is it's a contrast thing. It just separates the light top from the light legs, just having that extra bit. The belt, to me, isn't enough. Also, the design of the belt here, it's very Marc Silvestri-ish. But these 2 points here, like anytime Batman crouches down, he's basically, you know, in reality, if this were a belt, would be stabbing himself in the groin. So stabbing yourself in the cock is not, you know, the best kind of thing you want to be doing when you're out crime fighting. Just a suggestion, Batman, even though there is kind of a BDSM side to Batman, right? Have I mentioned this before? I remember people talking about this for a long time, and I couldn't quite see it, and eventually I just saw a shot of, it was the Ben Affleck Batman without the ears, right? Just the ears kind of photoshopped out, and I was like, oh, when you see that, it almost takes on a more GIMP-like kind of BDSM vibe, and I finally understood why people were saying that. Did want to mention a great shot of the Batcave here. And, you know, I was always... at the end of the issue, I'll point out, like I said, they show the black and white artwork. So we're going to look at that because as I was going through this issue, looking at it, I was confused. And I was like, is this inking? Is this digital inking? Is this pencils turned to ink? Like, I didn't know for 100% how this was being inked. I mean, there's some telltale signs here that are pretty obvious. Some rough lines, you know, for the textures where you're like, okay, you know, these seem like more old school kind of inking implements. And this is another section where I feel like there's almost some Bill Sienkiewicz, excuse me, in the way the angularness and the sketchy lines on the vehicles here. So I think there's some digital manipulation to the extent that, you know, some of the black lines that he puts down are kept darker and some in the background are made to be lighter, and that makes sense, you know, with depth perception and creating those layers and stuff. Just a great overall depiction here of the Batcave, I think. Here's another kind of instance with Batman having the cape kind of draped over. I feel it's kind of the Burton, Michael Keaton kind of Batman look, you know. So Joker shows up. Obviously, there's always a confrontation between Batman and Joker when Joker shows up. So again, this is another example of why this issue is just right into it. Like, you know, Batman never tries to just have a conversation with the guy. He always starts with violence, right? And it's like, it's perceived as cool and stuff, but, you know, maybe once in a while he might try just talking to the guy, as we do in real life. I guess that's another part of me that's grown out of the whole Batman thing. I think Batman, and, you know, it's been brought up, not just by me, you know, and in the past, that maybe Batman gets off kind of sexually on beating these guys up, right? So maybe there's a lot of that involved as well. Anyways, I don't want to go down that road today, but, you know, food for thought, guys. Another cool kind of Burton-y shot, I think. And Joker kind of just shows Batman, Batman shows Joker some disrespect here, spits in his face, split. So basically they're shaking on the fact that they got to team up here to figure out this mystery of these Joker zombies, right, that we see here. And I guess there's a Harley Quinn zombie as well, from what I can tell. And that's basically it. So, you know, story-wise, lots of tropes, lots of really typical Batman stuff. And art-wise, well, again, if you just look at this last parting shot here, art-wise, this book is completely beautiful. So, you know, for the storyline, not so much, but for the art, definitely worth it. And here's some inked pages by Marc Silvestri. So here's where I was like, okay, yeah, no, he did ink this. So it's almost like his approach to inking is like, I'm going to ink this like I would pencil. That's the best way I could describe it, which is probably a good idea, right? But to have the balls to do that and draw in such a textural, illustrative style that he's done here is amazing to me. And that's, he's got the balls to go pretty sketchy with some of these lines in the ink. He is using a very thin line as well. Okay, so there's the cover, and then, yeah, just loads of beautiful art here. Now we can really, without the colors, we can appreciate kind of all the hatching he does, for all these different effects. The building kind of fades off here with the hatching. I think that looks cool into the light of the moon, right? We don't get the whole moon drawn. He leaves kind of white area here. Just very clever work. And then the cloud formation. The hatching implies Batman's movement downwards. Just, yeah, very good stuff. There's graffiti here that says Clark Kent is Superman. That's not very subtle. So they picked a few pages out. Obviously, not all the pages are here. And this is, again, another better view of that Bat Cave that he inked. And you can see how here the black value is pretty much the same all the way throughout. And they change it with the coloring back here. Also, though, I want to point out, there is a vanishing point, right? Like all these lines merge at a certain point, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, he forgot to take it out here on the bat. One of these, well, this is the bat tank, I guess. The bat tank has just the tiniest of X here, and of course, if you don't know, you don't know. You will not care about that little X. But I think that's his vanishing point, and he forgot to take it out or white it out or whatever, or draw over it, which is cool. Not everyone's going to notice that. It's a nice little detail, though, process-wise. And there we go. Another beautiful... I feel like some of this is like maybe even like either a brush or a big Sharpie. I feel like some of this is inked with Sharpie back here. And even it's drying out, and it's like creates... It's pretty dirty inking. Pretty sketchy. But again, he's such a great illustrator. It's got that classic kind of illustrative look to it, so it doesn't seem as messy as it actually is. I guess if I saw all these original pages even in person and bigger, they'd probably seem a little messier than here. But messy doesn't mean bad. I definitely think the art in here is just A1, but that's all that's A1 in here. There you go. That is my review of Batman and the Joker, the Deadly Duo. So-so story, but super amazing art from Marc Silvestri. So if you're into that, I guess check it out. Thank you guys so much for watching out there. Those of you who are subscribed and are still watching, I really appreciate you still checking out the channel. Those of you who are watching but are not subscribed, please do so below. It only takes a second for you. Really helps out the channel. Helps get us out there to other people who might be interested in the same kind of content, namely comic books and comic book reviews here on Big Baby Reviews. So everyone out there, thank you so much for watching. Have an awesome day. King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13. 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at kingcomics.ca, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby. Like!